Some of the best moments on the show happens when the ladies are on a girls trip. But is Bravo cheaping out on the Real Housewives of Atlanta's all-cast trips? It's Justin Diego back with another binge-worthy video, and today I'm doing this video because I caught a lot of shade from a comment I made on my last video about how these last few trips have been underwhelming for me, with some viewers saying, "So we bashed in the Bahamas? The narrator should know that there's nothing cheap in or about the Bahamas. Try living there." And LOL cheap places? Excuse me? Watch yourself. Well, I decided that I'm not gonna apologize for what I said because honestly, I said what I said. No, really, I meant what I said, but what I will do is explain. If you're new to Bingeworthy, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, then go ahead and hit the bell button so you're on the VIP list and you get notifications that I send out only to my loyal subscribers. A lot of people feel like the show is fake sometimes because it requires a certain level of production. Yes, there are producers in charge of provoking the ladies and boosting them up in order to drive the story. Without this, the show would be a flop and we would all be so bored. So when it comes to these girls trips, it's important to remember that it's a part of the production. And for the record, no, there is nothing wrong with Puerto Rico, the Bahamas, or any of the other places that I've been underwhelmed with for the Real Housewives of Atlanta girls trips. I understand that producers know when we watch the show, we essentially get to live through the cast. So when they go on a cute little trip, in a way, it feels like we're going along for the ride. So while the girls oftentimes are the ones to suggest a trip, most of the time, they've already gotten the green light from producers, or the show's producers will decide whether or not and to what extent it gets covered on the show. In most seasons, the girls normally have at least 2 trips. They first have a small trip like the one where they went camping last season down the street, and then they had the big cast trip that happened later in the show when they went to Hawaii. My issue actually starts here. The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills gets way more trips, which costs the network way more money, even though the Real Housewives of Atlanta makes the network the most money as their #1 show. For example, last season, the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills had 4 trips that were filmed to some extent. For that season, there was a trip to Greece, Mexico, New York City, and Hong Kong. Again, all the while, the Real Housewives of Atlanta just went up the street for that glamping trip without even leaving Georgia, before wrapping up the season with their trip to Hawaii. Keep in mind, each time these trips happen, Bravo has to foot the bill for the flights, lodging, excursions, and of course for the production crew. While I have no way of knowing exactly how much they spend, for the sake of argument, let's just play around with some numbers for those of you who still think that I'm overreacting. First, let's take a look at how much it would cost the network for a cast of 5. Again, this is only for the sake of argument. I know that each show has more or less cast members, but we just want to keep it simple. The goal is to find out about how much it costs the network to fund the girls trip for both shows. The Real Housewives of Atlanta trip to Maui. Round-trip flights from ATL to Hawaii, according to Google Flights, cost just $679. If you multiply that by 5, we get $3,395. I did some digging to find out where they stayed in Maui, and that resort cost about $789 a night. And again, we multiplied that number by 5. I also allot $5,000 of spending money for excursions and things like eating and stuff like that, just to be a little bit more practical. And multiplying that by 5, we get $25,000. I'm also estimating around $50,000 for the production crew for both shows every time they take a girls trip. This brings the total to just over $82,000 for Atlanta taking a girls trip to Hawaii. Meanwhile, let's talk about the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills trip to Hong Kong. If you watch the show, you know that these girls do not ever fly coach. They pride themselves on flying private. So the estimated cost from a private jet from LAX to Hong Kong is estimated to cost over $151,904. I was able to also find out exactly where they stayed which was actually on Bravo's website. And that hotel in Hong Kong costs about $3,580 per room. Again, if you watch this show, you know that they always fight over the best room. And in this case, Lisa actually got the executive suite, which is estimated to cost over $6,443. And again, we have to allot for that $50,000 production crew cost, which brings their total to $172,717 for their trip to Hong Kong. Keep in mind, this is just one trip, and they do 2 or 3 on a slow season. So, do you understand what I mean now? What is it? Like, why don't our girls get this type of fabulosity in Atlanta? That is why I am excited to see that the all-cast trip this year happens in Spain. I think that it will be good for the show, and I can already tell that they spent a lot of money, and the shots look amazing. Again, when we watch these shows, we get ideas about who we are and what we deserve, and I just want my fellow Real Housewives of Atlanta watchers to know that we are just as worthy of a fabulous trip anywhere around the world. The Bahamas has some of the best beaches in the world, and that's great. But not to make this about race, sometimes I feel that we as black people have these limitations on ourselves, so we don't get to travel international. We don't allow ourselves to try the sushi. We order the water at the restaurant when we know we can afford the lemonade. For a lot of us, the Bahamas was our first big trip, and that's great. I am not knocking that, and I'm not too good for the Bahamas either. But a flight from ACL to Nassau is just $367, sis. It's not shade. I just think the network can do a lot better. It makes me sad to think that I actually offended you guys and a lot of you thought I was bashing the Bahamas, but I'm glad that it created an opportunity for us to have a discussion. So I want you to comment below. Let me know if we're on the same page. Again, I don't know if these numbers are accurate or not. I just Googled this stuff and, it's adding up to me, but the fact of the matter is it costs a lot to have certain trips, and I don't want them shorting our girls. Oh my god, I can't wait to read the comments. If this is your first time watching a binge-worthy video, be sure to hit that like button, comment, and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys on the next one.